Yeah. So I'll try to make it a brief presentation about 20 minutes. The sustainable growth with that goes with building domestic capability. And first, I'd like to get everything shortly. Poverty is the inability to produce the goods and services we want or need. If we don't need something, then we are not poor in that thing. We don't want something, we are not poor. It's only when we want things, need things, our inability to produce those things. And that way, if you look at our rural India, in the last 30 years, in a relative sense, we have grown poorer because we now want or need motorcycles, we want smartphones, we want more advanced goods, but the capability to produce has not caught up. And we are matching it with a lot of them through either imported technologies or imported know-how, all of that. So in that sense, that is why that distress happens and going into debt, all that happened because we have created the want or need without matching it with the productive capability. And if you go back 40, 50 years ago, in rural areas, we had much more of self-reliance. Even if we were in an absolute sense poorer, there was more self-reliance because you had crafts, you had weaving, you had ironsmith, you had carpentry, you had made the basic goods, household goods at a village level. Now those are gone, we are replacing it with often imported goods. So we have created the need, we have created the want, but we are not producing them. So that's very important to understand. So, and the way out of poverty is we have to create the capability to produce the goods we need for a decent quality of life. And those productive capabilities have to be in rural areas, because if we create them only in urban centers, the rural citizens don't have access. Again, they will fall further behind. Either they have to migrate to urban areas, which already our urban areas are bursting at the seams, or then they stay in the rural area and just sink further into debt and despair. So to avoid this trap, we have to create the productive capabilities in rural areas as well. And so in our context, sustainable development has to mean decentralized development, not just urban-based development, but decentralized development. So this is what I call a district-driven development as opposed to Delhi-driven development. So it has to be driven at a district level, and the development approach has to be this way. And let me look at some numbers today. Our GDP per capita is about $2,000. And just to put this in context, for example, our own states, Goa is the most advanced state in India, $7,000 GDP. Tamil Nadu, which my state where I live in, is 3,600, about half of Goa. Bihar is the lowest in India at $700. So you can see already a gap of 10 times between Goa and Bihar. So for India to be really a truly developed nation, we have to also reduce this gap. Not only push the overall GDP higher, but also reduce the gap between our richer and poorer states. And to put these numbers in perspective, South Korea is at about $31,000. So all of India is about 2,000, South Korea is 31,000. How do we address this gap? That is the fundamental thing. So two questions facing us. How do we raise the overall level of our GDP? Two, how do we make it sustainable and distributed so that our citizens at rural areas also benefit from that growth and participate in that growth? So this is the question, how do we get to that South Korea level sustainably? And for this, I'm going to take a approach and tell you how very basic household products. I'm not talking about very advanced technologies. I'm not talking about 5G or drones, any of that, but very basic household products can involve sophisticated know-how, industrial know-how. And it is on top of the know-how is how the advanced products are actually built. So I'm going to take the example of steel. So this steel example, I came from scissormall.com, and it's a website in America, and this is for haircuts. And it's a very ordinary, humble product, scissors. And you look at this American website, talks about a section where they talk about steel made in various countries, Japan, Korea, Germany, Taiwan, China, India, Pakistan. And they say steel made in Japan is regarded the best. And here is a crucial line they add. Pakistani and Indian steels are the poorest quality and do not sharpen or hold an edge well. So this is a very vital, why do they think this? And what makes them think this? And this is important. Why is steel important? Because the same cutting edge that goes also go into machine tools. So it's not just about scissors. It's not just about haircuts. Advanced machine tools that shape metal for various kinds of products need this type of them. The tools themselves need this type of sharp edge, and they have to hold that well. So they have to be advanced. It is that exactly those advanced steels we do not make today. Yet if you look at and this is, and the website explains which steel is the most advanced. Japan. Highest grade of Japanese steel, ATS 3 and 4. It is the finest and most expensive scissor steel. And not coincidentally, Japan is also the leader in machine tools. So they make the machines that make our household products. So mastery of that steel technology, that metallurgical technology, is vital for us to master machine tools. So that's an important point. And this has actually a fundamental role in poverty alleviation, because once we make the machine tools, I'll talk about this a little bit later, and we can distribute those tools to smaller facilities in rural areas, and we can make the household goods ourselves. But these machine tools are important. Today, India imports most of the machine tools we need because we don't make that steel. And the tragedy of this is India started making steel well before Japan did. And we have a glorious history in metallurgy. For example, this is the iron pillar in Delhi, which is 1,600 years old. So this is not due to our lack of capability or ability. It is because we just have not focused on this problem. So what we need in our industry is Indian products that aspire to be the best in the world. We have to take that resolve and say, not only will compete with imports domestically, but we have to aspire to be the best in the world. And today, we buy most of our capital goods, the machine tools I talked about, from abroad. And if you go to a textile factory, or if you go to automotive factory, you go to any factory, LED factory, any of them, the machines come from Switzerland, Germany, Japan, more recently Taiwan. In some cases, China has also stepped into this market. But really, these three major, Swiss, German, and Japan. And Japan has a major share in this. And the machine tools embody the detailed knowledge of the production process. And so it is critical that we master the tools themselves here. And our industrial houses, typically, if you see our factory, a textile factory, we execute the production process. We operate the machinery, but we lack the expertise to come up with our own process or modify or upgrade the existing process. This is a serious issue because only if we own the machine tools and the know-how for it, can we modify it to suit our own requirements. And we can also then reduce the cost so that we can spread the production facilities to smaller towns. When I'll give you an example, certain kind of advanced machinery, when we import, they may cost 1 crore or more, or sometimes 5 crores. And yet, when we have the know-how and domestically produce, we can cut the cost of the machine by 70-80% in many cases. So that means the machine tools become more affordable, and then we can spread the production facility everywhere. Today, because the machine tool is very expensive, they are only in few factories, most of which are located in urban areas. So creating rural jobs, industrial jobs, is fundamentally a problem of addressing this machine tool problem we have. So the way I call it is, we know how to operate the machines, but we don't know how to make the machines. So in software terminology, I say we run the code, but we don't know how to write the code. We use the app, but we don't know how to write the app. That is our situation today. And this is true across many, many industries. You study any industry, go to the roots, you will see this problem. So I'm talking about infrastructure, housing, and transport. For example, infrastructure, all the advanced cranes, you see the tall cranes in our cities, Delhi or Mumbai or Chennai, everywhere, those cranes are important. Transportation, energy and environment, healthcare, biotechnology, advanced manufacturing, data centers, smartphones, of course, advanced materials, aviation, defense. The advanced technology know-how is today important. And this is a core problem, and this has to be addressed by our industry. Why does it matter? I'll give you a GDP implication of this, because this ties back directly to GDP. Companies that own the know-how add a lot more value per worker than companies that don't. So here is Microsoft is at $1 million per employee of value added, while TCS is at $50,000 per employee value added. So TCS is one of the largest software companies in India, $50,000 per employee value addition per year. Microsoft is $1 million per employee per year. That is a 20 times difference. That is actually the same. The value added at company level is what becomes GDP at national level. So for us to produce GDP, we have to add value at every company, every factory, every industry. So that value added at our company is what becomes GDP at the national level. So US today is 25 times our per capita GDP, which is the same ratio, similar ratio between Microsoft and TCS in terms of value added per employee. So when we have the know-how, we control our destiny. So it is very important that we achieve the know-how in these. And we also, from a geopolitical point of view, we won't get lectured by other countries on this or that topic when we control the know-how. Today they lecture us because we depend on them for know-how. And when we have the domestic know-how, I mentioned we can spread the production facilities to small towns and rural areas. We can reduce the cost of those capital goods. The capital goods cost reduction is very vital to spread them everywhere and generate rural jobs, because our workers need the tools, and the tools have to be produced locally, and we need the know-how for the tools. And this is actually how we developed our own Tenkasi Center, because we have the know-how. So we could spread this to even rural area and train our own people. That is how the know-how we controlled is why we are able to develop a rural development center. And we can also achieve smaller scale factories that balance local demand with local production. For example, in Germany, their economy is very diversified. Their smaller towns and rural areas have actually really good industries that are globally competitive. Because they control the machine tools, they are able to spread the production facilities to smaller towns. And this deepening of the know-how has to be done in the private sector. That's very critical. We cannot do it in the public sector. We cannot do it in universities. The private sector has to be very involved in this process. And this is also not a very academic problem. This actually has to be done in the industry itself. And what can the government do? The government's role here is to be a tough school teacher, school principal, identify critical technology areas, evaluating our industry, rewarding the best, penalizing laggards. This is what government can do, and publish rankings for our know-how in 100, 200 critical sectors, from steel I mentioned, from drones, from capital goods, LEDs, every area, you name it, medical equipment. And all of these, we publish our rankings and award. And this is where keep emphasizing the importance of acquiring this know-how. Our political leaders, our business leaders must be aware, made constantly aware of this problem, that we need the machine tools, we need the technologies, we have to build them domestically. So I call this a national technology mission, and we have to launch this. And this is, and I will also say we have to institute awards. I call this Vishwakarma Award. Vishwakarma is our architect in the Hindu pantheon, and Vishwakarma Award to award engineers who come up with these technologies. So this is my proposal for how we can address this problem. And if we solve this problem, our GDP can really grow much faster. We can achieve the 10 times GDP, because we can cut down the needless imports of consumer goods, and we can build the technology domestically, and the GDP grows automatically. Thank you very much.